the biggest fan of bedazzled clothing. In fact, this is about as bedazzled as it gets for me. However, in recent social media happenings, there have been a lot of conversations surrounding bedazzled menswear and should men be wearing bedazzled clothing. I'm sure we've all seen the skits and the quote unquote jokes surrounding men wearing bedazzled menswear, and we've seen both men and women saying things like, who gonna be the boys? And men used to go to war, and men used to build houses, and men just aren't men anymore. And in watching all of this unfold, I can't help but wonder, are these really just jokes, or is there some truth up underneath there that needs to be unpacked and talked about? But I didn't just want to talk about it by myself. I wanted perspectives that I simply just can't access. So I gathered 3 black men whose intellect and thoughts I deeply respect, and today we are starting off the first ever Conversations with Cindy, where we're talking about not just bedazzled men's clothing, but also homophobic and patriarchal ideologies found both in men and women, and it's an episode you do not want to miss. So, bedazzled menswear, homophobia, and patriarchy. Okay, no, but can we talk about this one, y'all?
Oh, can we talk? Can we talk about it? Can we talk? Can we talk about it? Can we talk? Can we talk about it? Can we talk? Can we talk about it?
And welcome back to the Cindy Noir Show. I am your host, of course, Cindy Noir, and I have some amazing guests with me here today. I thank you all for being flexible with your time and being willing to meet and talk about bedazzled shirts with me on a whim. So if y'all could please introduce yourselves. Professor Odie, kick us off. Tell us who you are, what you do, and where can we find you?
Most definitely. Good people, great people, guys, people. How y'all feeling? My name is Professor Odie. I am a licensed therapist in the state of Pennsylvania. I am a content creator. I'm a therapist. I'm a psychoeducator. And you can find me on most platforms, either Professor_Odie or Professor.Odie. And yeah, TikTok, Instagram. Well, I really don't be on TikTok like that. Fuck TikTok. Instagram, YouTube, Threads. Yeah, that's where you can find me, yeah.
All right. And Trowan, where can we find you and what do you do?
Yeah, my name is Trowan. I'm actually based here in Dallas, Texas. Writer, poet, Lego and puppy lover. Just working public transit out here in Dallas. You can find me pretty much any social media platform, Trowan, TROJUAN_. So yeah.
And Sage X ended up wrap it up for us. What do you do and where can we find you?
So I'm Sage as the God. I am a graphic designer, small business owner, and I do a lot of things here and there. Worked on film sets and all types of things like that. Social media, as far as my social platforms, I am on TikTok as Sage as the God. Really, all of my platforms are Sage as the God. Instagram, Threads, yeah, mainly those, and YouTube, stuff like that. Yeah, and I'm based out of Ringo, Georgia.
Be a little bit all over the place. I want to thank y'all again for agreeing to be here. I really wanted to talk about this topic with men because I wanted to hear, I already know how women feel about the ones who have these beliefs when it comes to not just bedazzled menswear, but what that represents. But I don't really know much about how black men feel being the recipients of these expectations and standards of how to appear and how to act and how to dress and how to talk so that your sexuality or who you are as a person is ever questioned. I don't know much about your perspective. And so I really wanted to hear from you all standpoint how it feels to navigate life as a black man, regardless of your sexual identity. How do you navigate the world walking this tightrope that feels like I can only do but so much before I'm accused of or questioned about who I am for something as simple as bedazzled on a shirt. So before we get into it, before I ask my questions, I do want to make it clear to the viewers, I am not here to bash women. None of us are here to bash women. This is not a podcast of us sitting around and me being a hello Frederick, you so funny type of girl. No, this is a very constructive conversation of us being willing to look at not just how black men uphold patriarchal standards that are harming the whole community, but how Black women do too. So just wanted to make that little disclaimer. I personally am not a fan of the joking that I'm seeing around bedazzled menswear. I don't like bedazzled clothes, period. I'm not a fan of it. However, I felt like this topic of bedazzled menswear went from quote unquote jokes to homophobia real fast. I don't even think there was much of a difference, quite frankly, from the jump. And it's always bothered me. The who gonna be the boys wasn't funny for me long. Any of these kind of what I think are subtle jabs of homophobia aren't funny to me. And seeing all the social media controversy from both men and women picking on men for wearing bedazzled menswear, it just made me want to have this conversation with Black men of, even if you don't wear bedazzled menswear, how does it feel to watch our community be so hard on the Black men who do? And is it really just jokes? And if it's not, then what else is going on behind the surface? So I want to kick this conversation off by asking the question, how old were you the first time you recall patriarchal standards being projected onto you and expected of you by men and women? Whoever wants to answer, feel free.
I guess I'll go first. For me, I think it started probably around 3 or 4, and I remember like as a kid, like I had long hair, like down my back. Like if you braided my hair, it'll be pretty much almost to my waist. That's just my genetics, really. And I remember a lot of the elders, especially like the elder women, will always tell my mom, you need to cut his hair off, or you need to cut, him and his siblings' hair off because they look like girls. And I remember actually going with one of my elders at the time, and they cut our hair off without even my mother's permission. They just shaved our hair off and told my mother that, hey, like, this is not how boys should be. Like, the Bible says that, men should be like this. They should dress like this. Their hair should be like this. Their hair should be short. And so that's kind of the very first time that I kind of got a taste of that, like, okay, hey, this is the standard for you as a boy or as a man or, as a growing boy. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my first encounter.
So for you, it was 3 or 4? That's wild. Okay. Anybody else want to share?
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, it was relatively similar. It was like I was a little older, but it was based upon mannerisms. So I tell this story all the time because it's kind of funny, right? When I was growing up, I have eczema. I've had eczema my whole life.
Hey, we out here in Ashy.
Hey, I've had eczema my whole life. You dig what I'm saying?
Hey, Aquaphor is my girl.
I grew up. My mother is Black American, and my father is Nigerian. He's Igbo, right? So, one day I was putting lotion on my body because I'm saying I got eczema, so I got to make sure that everywhere is appropriately moisturized. Mm-hmm. And I sat down, and my dad saw me sitting down, and he was like, "Why are you sitting down to lotion up? That's what women do." Right? Ever since that day, I ain't never been completely moisturized again. Because why? Because I'm always standing up to moisturize. Right? And I was like, sometimes I sit down, but then it's like, woman, and it's like I'm working on, de-internalizing that. You feel me? It's the body has a very difficult time unlearning muscle memory things such as that nature. Right? So that's the humorous story. The other more innocuous and I think a little bit more I think when things are more innocuous, they seem to be less harmful, but they are still a form of policing, right? So, Cindy, back to your identifier of, what to do, how to behave, what to wear. These are all forms of heteropatriarchal policing, right? And I've always said in my content that the heteropatriarchal police force has no gender requirement. It just requires you to have and share the beliefs of the heteropatriarchal norm dynamic, right? So I was probably like 5 or 6, and I used to go to a program in Chicago. We have things called park districts, and they have field houses and stuff like that. And when I was younger, I used to be a little what people would call quote unquote feminine, but it's because I literally was just thinking like if my sister's a tomboy, then I just would be, you know, a little bit more attuned and engaged with women, what it is that women, you know, stuff like that. Because I wasn't thinking mostly of it. I was thinking of I just was opposed to my sister. Like she wanted to be a police person, I wanted to be a fireman. She liked vanilla, I like chocolate. If she liked ketchup, I like mustard. Like literally was just thinking about opposites, right? So one of the camp counselors called me over and she was like, "Hey, I want you to look at your nails." Didn't think nothing of it. So when I looked at my nails, I did this, and then I did this. And they was like, "All right, you can go play." Right? So the signaling was that men tend to look at their nails like this, and women tend to look at their nails like this. Right? This is very innocuous. It's something that seems to be very small. But once again, everybody, and this is like once again like in the late 90s early 2000s where the DL craze was at its highest, but it's because it was on the tail end of the HIV and AIDS epidemic in the black community, right? So there was still this association that if you are a man who behaves in this way, then you are causing more detriment and you are causing more harm to the black community because you refuse to acknowledge how it is that your lifestyle contributes to this overall epidemic. So you dig what I'm saying? So yeah, around about 3 or 4, 5 or 6.
Wow.
I think so mine's was like a two-part. I think I can definitely relate to what Sage was saying. Because y'all remember like early 2000, like braids were like super in, like ludicrous, everybody. And I remember I wanted a fro, you know, and I didn't know about detangling hair, but I know my sister had done it for me. And I remember getting in trouble at school, and the thing that one of the men in my life had, one of the men and women in my life had went to was like, yeah, see, that's why you're acting up right there. We need to cut that shit. And I remember them like taking a pair of clippers to the head because they're like, yeah, you don't go to school. You don't need to be cute anyway. You're a goddamn man. Like, what you trying to look cute for? What you need braids and all that. And it was like, and it wasn't just like this thing of like, oh, braids. It was almost like this humiliation. Like, you don't need to be cute. You don't need to be that. It was almost like a breakdown. Like, I think the second time that I remember, this is probably all teenagehood, is probably sex. I definitely remember I was probably about 15. And I remember on two different occasions this was mentioned. It was one time, it was probably like one of my first kisses, and the girl was a senior, and I was probably a sophomore in high school, and I ain't had no experience with nothing, but she did have like more experience with sex, and I remember it's like she attempted to kiss me, and I just remember her putting her tongue in my mouth, and I remember kind of getting back because I had never had that happen, and the first thing that was like, boy, don't tell me you scared of pussy now. And naturally, I'm like, yo, nah, I ain't, nah, but
Yeah.
but I remember like how I felt in that moment
Interesting.
of knowing if this gets back to anybody else at school or anything. And that later also happened with like a 33-year-old woman when I was like 16 about like you scared of pussy. And I just remember like that feeling of um if I was hesitant or nervous to have sex for like early times, like is there space for that? And it's funny because I recently read a book by Jason Reynolds. I think it's called 24 Seconds from Now. He kind of like talks about that. So I think those are probably two of my earliest moments with image and definitely like sex. Towards like as a boy, especially as a teenage boy, you got to be ready for sex. You can't turn this down. What you mean you don't know what you're doing? And I remember just having that feeling and not feeling comfortable or safe enough to tell nobody because, as a teenage boy, you can't not have sex. You can't be scared of sex. You can't not know what to do. You must come into this thing knowing what to do. And yeah, so I think those were like two of my earliest moments around teenage, you know.
That's so interesting. All three of your answers mirror each other in different ways. Two of y'all had incidences that had to do with hair, and then two of y'all had incidences that had to do with very small actions. A step back and looking at your hand, and people are already questioning. And those are both human behaviors. It's not even so much that it's feminine, it's human behavior. Who wouldn't get nervous at a new thing?
Yeah.
Why is this feminine and that's it irks me to see just how small the box is of what it means to be a man when men start talking about any step outside or just trying to get comfortable in the box. Hell, and you are already being questioned and judged and chastised. I find that to be, unfortunately, really sad that from very, very young ages, y'all were shown just how strict and tight that box is. That sounds so terrible, but y'all know what I mean. The box is
Yeah.
when it comes to it being what it means to be a man. So I want to then go into with what's happening with now with the whole bedazzled menswear. What are y'all's thoughts about that? Do y'all wear bedazzled menswear? If you do, of course, no judgment on my end, but like, how do y'all feel? Is it just jokes? Is it not that deep? Is it that deep? What are
Hey,
your thoughts?
I think I want to let Odie go into this, but I just want to let y'all know that the word bedazzled and that's so funny, Frederick. That's going to got me cracking up, dog. Bedazzled is such a funny word too. So,
I
Slick,
swear.
All right.
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So
Go ahead.
let's break this down real quick. So everybody knows that jokes, all jokes have a little bit of truth to them, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's number one.
absolutely.
Number two, if we are acknowledging the context around the joke, if we are acknowledging why the joke is funny, it is because the joke is supposed to elicit a particular type of response that is over the top, almost comical, which is, you know, you wearing this thing contrasts with the societal idea of how it is that you are supposed to present. Therefore, this is humorous because in my mind, I cannot conceptualize why a man would be wearing this type of a straight man would be
Yeah.
wearing this type of clothing. Now, further into that, once we begin getting into the spaces of making jokes about behaviors or making jokes about particular types of exhibitions of behavior, that's when we start rolling the ball of policing, or that's when we start rolling the ball of public shaming. So if we're gonna keep it a bean, that's the reason why very few people like to sit in the front row of comedy shows, because you know that you are going to be made fun of. You know that you
Yeah.
are going to be a subject of public humiliation for all intents and purposes. Now, if you cool with it, then you cool with it, but that doesn't make it any less public humiliation. You've just consented to the ritual of public humiliation, right? That's number one. Number two, when we begin talking about this idea of is it that deep or is it not that deep, the ocean is always going to be deep to motherfuckers who are used to swimming in puddles, right? So the reality of the situation is, if I can see how deep this goes, simply because you're still on the surface does not mean that this thing does not have depth to it. You are just used to swimming in puddles, right? So the reality of the situation is that this is a homophobic dog whistle. That's precisely what it is. Because if we are connecting these chains together, your desire, and I've said this in previous conversations before, your desire is to utilize or leverage the behavioral recoiling of somebody being publicly humiliated or shamed into them behaving in a way that is more comfortable for you, right? So if you're making these jokes, or if you're saying these things about men who don bedazzled X, Y, and Z are somehow lesser men, depending upon how it is that these men receive this information, they are either going to A, respond to this in such a way where they stop engaging in this behavior, or B, they are going to push back against this, and for some people that continues to whether it be credentialize or validate their perspective about this person being a part of the LGBTQI community. This person, why would you be so defensive unless you were guilty of, et cetera, of what it is that I am accusing you of? But once again, that is a confirmation bias, and that is an anchoring, and that's also a train of thought that is very common in spaces of policing, in spaces of legality, and in spaces of law. So to go back to the original question, like, is it that deep, or are these all these types of things? The answer is yes, right? Because irrespective of how it is that we want to position it, it is a type of policing, it is a type of monitoring, and it is a type of categorization that exists to more easily identify what masculinity is and what it is not.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and I agree with the whole sentiment. Even for myself, to answer the original question as far as do I wear bedazzled stuff, it's not really my thing. I mean, I don't like the whole head look. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not gonna I'm not going to belittle nobody else for what they choose to wear, because I express myself in my own type of way. My main style of fashion is like 90s fashion. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of just my main style. But I don't shy away from other forms of fashion, but dazzling is just not. And I don't like that word either, but it's just
It's just so extra.
yeah, it's just too many
You
syllables.
still
and
saying
shit.
the word like that.
Yeah. But it's not my thing, you know what I'm saying? But I will say this. I wish our people, our community would stop acting like we ain't always been flashy people.
Flashy.
If you
Go
go
back
back to the
Osleys.
70s, the 80s, all these the Osleys, the crop tops, the bell bottoms, the high waisted jeans, the colorful color palettes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The floral tops. Like we've always been an expressive people. You know what I'm saying? And I think I don't know where this notion comes from of just wanting to, like you said, the who gonna be the boys and the bedazzling, and it's just like this. Everything is always centered around sexuality nowadays. Like everything, like every conversation. If somebody wants to be innovative in their fashion designs, it's all just consistently centered around sexuality.
Yeah.
And I just find it just very weird because, like, I feel like what does it really even matter? But I think people just be trying to pick apart other people when they got a million things going on in their life. They be trying to just find anything to, and then like if we going into the patriarchy, we going into people's mindsets, how they were raised, what they feel is masculine, what they feel is feminine. Everybody is just trying to find. If you ask me, everybody's just finding something to be mad about because like I said, if I go back to looking at the evolution of fashion within our community, within our people, we've always been expressive in so many different ways. I mean, what men that was wearing finger waves and all types of shit, Jerry curls, hair gelled down, slick to the back. So people just
Silk
be finding
press,
things.
bolos
Silk
in the
press.
hair, like
Listen,
Yeah.
like,
And the wild part,
that's just
is
what
you
it
ain't
is.
even got to go that far.
Yeah.
no.
You go to early
don't.
2000s.
Nope.
Snoop was out there with a
Snoop
silk
had
press.
a silk press and
2000.
bubbles in his head. But you know
Snoop,
what?
Cat Williams.
Yeah.
Anybody who was getting braids in the early 2000s, one of the parts of the process of getting them braids was getting that blowout or getting that silk press.
Man,
Whole
listen.
Trady, East
I
Side
want to
of
go back to
Snoop, all
Snoop
that.
Dogg though, because I thought about why was he able to rock the hairstyles, and from my recollection, he not be questioned or considered gay. But I think
Would you like for me
he
to
was?
explain?
Please,
Oh,
I'd
yes,
love to
please.
hear
Would you
that.
like
I'd
me
love
to
to hear
explain?
that.
Because notice the two examples that we gave, right?
Yep.
It's Snoop and it's Cat Williams, but
Cat
at
Williams.
the time he was going by Money Mike, right?
Yep.
Both of these men also participated in what people would perceive as either hyper masculine or extremely patriarchal behaviors outside of their hairstyles.
I knew
so
you were
there
go-
was
I-
enough
yep.
of a counterbalance.
A balance,
in order
yeah.
to exactly, right? So think about it. During the period of time, we did not know Cat Williams as a comedian. We knew him as his front character, Money Mike, and Money Mike was a pimp.
Yep, pimp culture.
Right, so there were a number of individuals wherein which their masculinity was so large that they could engage,
Get away
in
with,
these,
yeah.
they could get away with it, right? And going back to Brother Sage, going back to your question of I don't understand why people are, they just trying to find things to be mad about. I don't understand why it matters. There's a part of me that firmly believes that the black community we have consistently been attempting to figure out internally, quote unquote, what our problem is, right? What is the deviation? What is the thing that's preventing the black community from ascending to a particular level of power, influence, political representation, economic, what have you, right? And the pattern of blame or the pattern of deviation usually falls in the same wheelhouses as the patterns of deviation that Judeo-Christian dynamics utilize in order to cast off its societal ills into its deviance. So whether it be fast and loose women, whether it be homosexuals, whether it be men who are slovenly and men who are not of a particular cloth, you have to define an enemy in order to engage in some type of defeat, so that you feel self-assured that you are a member of progressing the society, right? So within the black community specifically, I've noticed that these conversations around homosexuality tend to center around black men. Even if you look into the history of Afrocentrism, I say that a lot of thought communities in the black community have to have their enemy. With Afrocentric people, it's the gays, right? With black radical men, it's feminism. Like with black feminism, it is the construction of patriarchy that exists within some black men, right? There has to be an enemy in order for you to believe that you are progressing in a particular way. You dig what I'm saying? So it's like, when we ultimately boil it down, the reason why some men are able to access these things and others are not is because they are participating in particular types of heteropatriarchy that allow for them to point and say, how you gonna say that I'm this when I be doing shit like this?
Right.
That's a good
Okay.
point. I like
I can
that.
see that.
I was going to say, I think part of why there seems to be a back and forth between black women and men, especially when it comes to these weird who gonna be the boys and women, black women are too masculine, that back and forth thing. I think white supremacy just won real bad, because I feel like both sides are trying to live up to a standard of what it means to be masculine or feminine that we didn't create for ourselves. I feel like if we defined what it meant for ourselves, it would not look like the white supremacist definition of what it means to be a woman or a man. And I think we are just too devoted to a man provides, a man goes to work, comes home, has no soul, has no life, has no joy. Black people are joyous. We have souls. We have these things that Anglo-Saxons just don't have. And so they did not factor that into the definition of what it means to be a man or a woman. And so black women, we're not the quote unquote docile definition of what it means to be a woman. And instead of the black community honoring who we are on both sides and finding the strength and beauty in that, we throw jabs back and forth. Well, you wearing a bedazzled shirt makes you less of a man of what society says you should be. Well, you have a quote unquote degree and a job, so you are too masculine of a woman. Instead of realizing that these are things in us we should be honoring and celebrating. But I think white supremacy has us just chastising and tearing it down on one another. And it's really frustrating to me, because I love seeing black men. Now, I don't like the hyper masculine aspect that you were talking about that balanced out the more feminine presentation. But like, I love seeing Snoop Dogg rock his hair how he wanted to. I love seeing Cat Williams what he wanted to do with his hair. Didn't like the pimping and the gangster banging behind it, but I like to see black people express themselves freely, however that looks. Whether I would do it or not doesn't matter, but the way that we police each other to me feels so constricting. But the way that we police black men to me at times feels even more constricting, because I can eat a banana and not get questioned about what I like. I can put on chapstick and not get questioned about who I like. I can do this with my nails and not get questioned about who I like. I can be nervous in an intimate moment and not get questioned about being afraid of something. Actually, that's cap. I take that last part back. But you know what I mean. There is more room that I have as a woman to be that I don't see that you all get to have. Case in point, I met a guy who went on a 5-minute tangent about how men shouldn't eat flats, because wings, that drums are for men and flats are for women, and he was dead ass. And I said, but it's chicken. It's chicken. I'm not gonna look at you sideways for eating chicken.
But flats got that little.
But it got the little. And that's what, like, even on the shallow part, if we gonna be technical, the flat got the little, so if we gonna be, the drumstick ain't no way around that, but the flat got the, he was dead ass. He was like,
sprayed it with
as a man, just, I let him talk. I y'all, I wish I was making it up. He was dead ass getting
I know
upset
you're not
talking
making it up.
about
That's why it's so funny.
Yeah. Oh, God.
flats are for women and drumsticks are for men. Why, as a man, are you eating flats? That is for women to eat.
Oh yeah, I be seeing that. Why?
He was
Why
dead
as a man?
ass. Because
Yeah.
he started off talking about, I'm tired of men. The rant started off with him saying, this is in person. I'm tired of men trying to be like women. Y'all be wanting to wear women's bags, wearing their clothes, and now y'all want to eat their food. That's why I feel like men should only eat drums. And I said, drum what?
Drum
Eat their
roll.
food,
The
dog.
wings, the wings. I said,
Man
you
eat
saying-
steak.
So I said,
Women-
right?
women be eating
eat salad.
You supposed to be loving me.
Literally, literally. And I'm sitting there like, I gotta get home, because this.
That is
In all
hilarious.
honesty, y'all, being a woman talking to him, it went from funny to scary really fast. Because my thought process was, if you as a man are afraid to be seen eating a flat in public, I can't piss you off. I cannot say anything to set you off, sir. I'm
might kill
nervous
something.
now because no, literally, because the more he kept talking, the more passionate he got about men should be paying bills, and it was, and that's as the receiving end. This is why I don't like the jokes. They're not funny because, and this is also why, as a woman, I don't like seeing other women participate in who gonna be the boys and men used to go to war. Men used to go to war and then come home and beat us. Finish your sentence. Finish your sentence. Finish it out. That's what bothers me. It's like, y'all are trying to make light of things that men used to do that we were drugged up trying to survive through it.
Literally.
Can we please be for real? And so to be talking to him and to hear him start off talking about bedazzled shirts and then get to the point that men shouldn't eat flats, I'm scared. We've gone too far. And honestly, he's why I wanted to talk to y'all today, because he shook me to my core. Because after the laughing, when you sit with it, damn, how small is your box of manhood to where a type of wing you're afraid to eat and be seen eating in public? What else are you afraid to do? What else are you? My God.
I won't even say what else are you afraid to do. What else are you in fear that somebody else can remove from you and say that your masculinity has been removed from you?
Exactly. You're not your sense of what it means to be a man is way too loose. You ain't got no foundation in yourself of what it means for you to be a man. That if it's as loose as eating a 10-piece with mixed wings in it, I don't.
And don't
I'm
get
scared to
dipping
be
sauce.
around
They be
my
goddamn going
God.
off on you there. Don't get no dipping sauce,
my
no
gosh.
barbecue sauce, no little
The
sour
wings can't
sauce.
be wet, nothing.
Yeah, oh, God, no.
Dry,
Just dry.
hard, flavorless.
Fried, extra burnt.
Right, but brother, you don't believe that that's an allegory to the fact that your life you can experience no joy and no whimsy, brother, and
Like,
you
at
recognize
all.
that maybe why
Literally.
you're that angry.
Where's your
Thank
joy?
you. That's
Where's your
exactly
happiness?
what I was going to say
Yeah.
of why a lot of these men are walking around here so unstable within their being is because of that fact right there. Is because they don't open up any room for any expression, and that shit just be eating away at they soul. They soul like, bitch, express yourself. Like, we're an expressive people, and you are constraining yourself. It's like trying to like put the ocean in a box, or trying to cram the river in a box or something, and it's just like leaking out. And it's just like, when you hold so much in, that shit like destroys your spirit. And I'm just knowing that, even just from like, I don't know about y'all, but even growing up for myself, like when they tell you men can't have emotions, and growing up I always bottled up my emotions, and that shit made me angry because I just felt like I could never express that or whatever. And I think that's just what's wrong with a lot of people nowadays. And then it's creating mental illness within them, because it's like, if you that adamant about chicken or bananas or whatever the case might be, it's just like I don't know which one of you said it on panel, but them type of motherfuckers that'll kill you, because they be just that like, it just be so much just bottled
Ticking
up,
time bombs.
and it is like ticking time bombs, and that energy has to be released somehow, and it's usually through aggression. Like, it's usually through that. Like, and I don't. And then
it's funny because
go ahead.
oh, sorry, it might be. I was just saying, which is so funny because the anger and the aggression is an emotion that they're running from. So that's another funny part. But it was funny
Exactly.
because going back when you were saying like dressing like women, I ain't gonna lie. I think my man Hakeem, I asked him about a cropped hoodie, and this was like around 2021. And I was like, yo, how this look? What you think people gonna think? And his thing is like, he asked me, he said, when you say, what do you think people are gonna think? What are you saying? And I was like, I don't know. I may wear this around, and somebody might think I'm this. And he said, so if somebody did think you were gay, what's wrong with that? Like, what would actually be wrong with
Right.
that? Now, me, I'm thinking like, oh, the way I'm gonna be perceived and what this is gonna be met with. But then I think also the other side when you saying like dressing like women and women's food, um, I think also I ain't gonna lie, as a man who shops in the women's section, sometimes it's like, oh, I might not be over here like grabbing no panties and a bra, but sometimes the women be having some fly ass colors in their department. So I might be like,
Some
yo, I
fucking
like that
fly ass
sweater.
sweaters.
And,
Honestly,
and it's kind,
y'all's
but it's kind of
clothing
like
is
it's
so mute.
It
no,
is.
yeah, because it's like, oh, yo, y'all got a teal over here. I'm like, I can't get that over here in the men's
All
section
right.
right here. So it's
Okay.
like, okay, I'm gonna just get it
Hmm.
my equivalent into this size right here. And it's like, yo, this is actually kind of fly. But also I think sometimes I think also what at times women don't realize they're also doing this because typically I realized when I heard about the bedazzled stuff like that, I would hear somebody say, well, no, I can tell that somebody's gay because I even got a gay homeboy and he could tell that off anything. And so when they start having conversations about who are less of men based off of clothing that they wear, I also have to wonder that best friend that you have who is a gay man, I think there's also a correlation of you don't believe that he's a real man, and I don't think that that's a conversation they're going to have because it's like an okay conversation. But it's kind of like, yeah, you also kind of slighting your man right there because you don't think that he's a less, you know. And so I don't know. It's just
Exactly.
One
really,
day,
yeah.
no, because you're not wrong. One day, black women, we will have to have a conversation about our internalized homophobia and how it manifests because the way a lot of black women think about homosexuality is so negative, and I don't think they realize whether they do. Some may not, but even down to having a quote unquote gay best friend, some of us look at that as not a person, but a prop, but
An
a
accessory.
I think it's an accessory. Yeah, I
accessory,
was to say an
a
accessory.
flex to be able to
This
say
is
I
something
have
I
that,
never leave the
and
house with.
not right, literally. And you can hear that in how they talk about men in general. If you listen to a woman talk about men, you will figure out how she sees homosexuality very quickly because when you start talking about as a man he should, and if he don't do that then that means he's, more times than not she has some homophobia internalized, whether it's covert, overt, whether she's conscious, subconscious, is there.
I
And
have a question though.
yes,
Is that internalized homophobia or is that internalized patriarchy? Because
both.
when I think
You ate with
about
that, hold on.
yeah, because when I think about it from the perspective of like Sage said something along the lines of us internalizing or us holding in these emotions, and I do a lot of work with men, right? And I also do a lot of cross referencing work as it relates to dismantling patriarchy, but also being able to identify patriarchy that harms you, irrespective of the gender that it comes in, right? So it's not just expressing the emotion or feeling as if though you cannot express the emotion, it's the policing response when that emotional expression occurs, right? So the idea is utilizing gay men as a scapegoat or as a lightning rod or as a catalyst to shame straight men who express themselves in ways that are typically or stereotypically feminine, right? So we're perceiving you as less of a man because not because you are engaging in homosexuality or not because you are behaving in this way, but because you are engaging in a way that we perceive to be feminine, right? So it is this idea, this internalization of anti-femininity, which is a core component of traditional masculine ideology, right? So you behaving in this way, you navigating in this way, means that you are less of a man, irrespective of how it is that you will assert yourself within your masculinity. That's number one. But also number two, I find it very intriguing, and this is the reason why I asked the question, is it internalized homophobia or is it internalized patriarchy? Because if we acknowledge that patriarchy as a system, trickles down and creates these other ideological components, why can we not identify women as being able to internalize patriarchy and just hold it there? I think a number of women are uncomfortable with being identified as equippers and weaponizers of the patriarchy because they've identified patriarchy with men and not patriarchy with ideologies about men.
I agree completely.
yeah.
You hit the nail on the head with that one. I think that it is patriarchy. And to take it a step further with Black women especially, I think part of why so many of us continue to enable the beliefs of patriarchal ideologies is because of our fear of being over masculinized.
Yes.
If I'm told that as a Black woman I'm undesirable, that we are the least desired demographic amongst men, that, you know, the more educated I am, the more successful I am, the more unattractive I am to my men, all those things, I become insecure that I'm not feminine enough, that I am too masculine. So for me, the gratification of being with a man isn't just in getting a man, but it is also in getting a patriarchal man who gets to reaffirm my femininity. So if I can find and be with a man who is a provider, who pays the bills, who does all the man things, and he chooses me, then that means I'm feminine enough to be with a man.
It
Does that
affirms
make
your
sense?
femininity. It does. It does.
Right.
But I'm a follow up with your follow up. Now, within that same framing, I've said two things in previous conversations. Number one, there are a number of women who cannot exist without patriarchy because their femininity literally cannot exist without patriarchy. That means that you cannot talk to me about my fragile masculine ego because your feminine ego is just as
It's fragile.
That's
Yeah.
number one.
Yeah.
But also number two, I've asked, and I've had the same conversation on the Express Yourself Black Man podcast. Shout out Pastor Kids. In that dynamic, in that hypothetical that you just identified, do you believe that a number of women have the capacity to understand that if you carrying the patriarchy was heavy for you, what makes you think that it is not heavy for me? Are you in your hypothetical? In your hypothetical, does this ideal man get tired? Does this ideal man get sad? Does this ideal man get injured? Right? Because I've been percolating on this idea in my mind. I'm like, the biggest overlap between men who uphold patriarchy and men who are willing to dismantle it, the biggest overlap where we find the most commonality is the expectation of the benevolent patriarch. Not only the expectation of the benevolent patriarch, but what am I justified to ask for in return for being a benevolent patriarch that you will not turn around and say, this is too feminine for you to ask for? I want you to consider my humanity.
Yeah.
Are you able to do that without identifying it as my humanity being considered as being feminine? Because I feel like whether the man is conventional, whether the man is traditional, whether the man is conservative, whether the man is liberal, whether the man is progressive, that is something that all of those men deal with. The idea that me asking you as a woman to consider my humanity, but also to consider how it is that you are weaponizing the patriarchy to dehumanize me. It is patriarchal.
You ate 5, 6, 7.
That's that segment. That's that segment. Now we front row.
No, I completely agree. I'm so glad we're finally talking about benevolent patriarchs because and honestly, if I'm keeping it a bean, I'm unlearning that too because it sounds so good. You get you a man that pays the bills and shuts the hell up at the same time. Oh, that sounds amazing. But the reality is it's not realistic. And I'm trying to understand where I am in my journey now is, okay, I don't want that because that's not real. That's not... Anybody under those conditions will crack at some point. If I'm going to marry someone, please make it to 55, 60, 75. Make it live. I don't want you dying at 50 because you have ran your life into the ground trying to provide. It ain't that damn serious. No. So then what does masculinity look like outside of patriarchal expectations? That's where I am. That's what I'm trying to learn and define for myself. But going back to benevolent patriarchs, that is what women and society are glorifying now. That is the ideal man. That is the way to escape a traditional man. Get you a man that can cry and pay all the bills with no issue, but he's only crying about what you're okay with him crying about. Not anything you don't want him to cry about, but the things that are cool for you. Get you a man who is only nice to you. he is a phenomenal gentleman just to you. If he does it to anybody, any other women, he must be cheating on you. You know, if there's still the confines. I can still see the box. It's just the box is now like this when before it was like this. And that's what I don't like. It's like when I listen to the Shira Sevens, and I critique them often because you're selling a dream. Get you a rich man who wants you for you, is not worried about how you can also make money, will put you up in the house, pay for everything, and all you have to do is be you, and he won't abuse you. He won't take advantage of you being that vulnerable. That definition and how it's romanticized to me scares me, because I hear the abuse in that. I hear how you are setting women up to end up in really dangerous predicaments by creating this fictional man who does all the right things in every avenue and never fucks up. What you guys say?
Why is it that the woman is the only person who could be abused in this situation? I want you to run what it is that you just said back.
She said, "Gag me."
Okay,
I want you to run what it is that you just said back. The core component of the idealized man that you just identified is that man is not able to say to you how it is that you've harmed him, how it is that your behavior is making him feel uncomfortable, how it is that what it is that you do creates situations where in which he feels emotionally unsafe. In that situation, that woman is extracting labor from this man. She is expecting emotional, economic, and all of these other types of labor, yet there is no mention of reciprocation. Is that not a type of abuse? Is that not a type of dehumanization? Is that not a type of invalidation of humanity?
It is.
What you are looking for is somebody to provide you with a fantasy. I've said this before. The same way a number of women will say men want slaves, a number of women want grunts. You want a man to be able to do all of these things for you and abandon his humanity at the point where it becomes inconvenient for you. That's emotional abuse.
I'll be damned.
Abandon this community.
Like
Wow.
he man, he
No,
chewed
that's
with that
it.
one.
You run that back. What was that last thing you said?
Because it's like-
Abandon his humanity at the what?
Abandon his humanity at the point where it becomes inconvenient for you. That is the framework. That is the foundation for emotional abuse.
God damn.
Because
he
what
put that on a
happens?
mug.
What happens when that humanity becomes inconvenient? You become manipulative. You become irate. You become angry. You will, at the extreme end, you can become a covert narcissist. You are disrupting the continuity of my idealized perception of life, and that harms me. So now I'm going to make you responsible for the harm that you have caused me based upon disrupting my comfort. Where does that leave that man in his humanity? So this is the reason why whenever I talk about these things, the first thing that comes out of my mouth is, are you able to reciprocate what it is that you are asking for? Because if you are not, you are looking for somebody to fill in the gaps wherein which you have not learned how to do this for yourself. If we want to be very specific around, I was watching a clip, a YouTube clip, and this woman said, I use people the same way drug addicts use drugs. And I was like, if more people were honest about how it is that they led relationships, that's how it is that they engage with people. They just don't want to admit it because it's the type of abuse that's on the end of sugar and caffeine instead of cocaine and, synthetic opiates.
Yeah. I think women definitely, people look at relationships as a role to perform on both sides. And if I'm supposed to be the woman that is cooking and cleaning and laying down and throwing it down and got the Gawk 3000, then you should be, we're both dehumanizing each other and expecting each other to dehumanize each other for us, if that makes sense. And you ate that.
Love is contextualized by how much I am willing to abandon myself in order to show up for you.
And how you want me to show up and not who I actually am. Yeah,
like we're treating this reality and this experience like we're fucking androids, like we're fucking just
NPCs,
like NPCs,
void
like,
of human, absolutely,
of emotion, of like he said, of
Welcome
humanity.
to capitalism, nigga.
Literally. So I want to finish up by asking the question: what does masculinity look like, void of patriarchal expectations and conditioning? What does it mean to be a man when you are not trying to be the man that the white man said you're supposed to be?
Well, I'm gonna say
Well,
for
I'll go see.
myself. I'm gonna say for myself. I feel like the most masculine thing, or whether you want to go on the other end of the spectrum when it comes to femininity, I feel like the most masculine thing you can do is kind of just stand in who you are, because I mean that's you, that's your expression, that's who you incarnated to be, and it's like, why am I here to change myself to fit into the narrative of everybody else? You know what I'm saying? Like, why am I like minimizing my reality to make everybody else comfortable, or to make these systems who I didn't build these damn systems. I just inherited the motherfucking game. You know what I'm saying? Like, but why am I minimizing myself to make everybody else comfortable? You know, and
Mm.
just even just down to, I would say, action, like action energy, like, you know, like if I say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do something, or if I give you my word, that's my word. I feel like those some of the sort of things are kind of on that spectrum for me, but the biggest thing that I can say, or for myself, in the most masculine way I think anybody can be, is standing 10 toes firmly in who the fuck you are. Like, this is how you want to express yourself. This is you. Like, why am I worrying about what society has to say when it comes down to how I should be expressing myself? Or they tell me that I can't do this, or like, I'm an artist. Like, me personally, like, I'm an artist. You know what I'm saying? And people tell me, oh, you can't. You know, men. I know some wild shit. You know, men don't paint, men don't draw. You don't get out there and go do construction, some shit. You know what I'm saying? But this is my gift, and so I'm just gonna stand in what was given to me by the divine. Like, I'm not finna let nobody basically push me off my pivot or take me out of my circle to try to fit into
Yeah.
whatever geometric shape you standing in. Like, no, like, I'm not finna do that. So that's kind of my take on
I
that.
like that.
I I think for me, on a masculine way, our patriarchy kind of similar to you, on integrity piece, but also just being able to just have a full human element. And I actually really thought about some of that as it pertains to a dating. When you said something about how much am I able to abandon myself to show up for others, like I've actually thought about women that I dated in the past, and whenever I had to like box myself into this patriarchal form of masculinity, it often came with lies to those women, because I often, even if they would ask me questions, I will find myself morphing myself into whatever version that you needed me to. And I would even do it little circular ways. Like they may ask a question and I might reframe the question with them just so I can paint the answer however they needed it to be. And I wasn't trying to be like this deceptive, horrible person, but there was a part of me that was saying that if I show up as I am not worthy of acceptance. So I was being who I thought I was, but I think just nowadays is just like allowing me to be myself. I want to, I like to tell a woman, hey, when they start talking provide and protect, I'm like, no, I'm a provider, I'm a protector, I'm a nurturer, but also I want to provide her, I want to protect her and a nurturer. Like we together. I want you to protect my name in certain rooms. I have certain nurturing things like this. Yo, there are some days I ain't gonna lie, bro. I'm afraid. Like there are certain situations that I'm afraid of, and I want to be able to express that I'm afraid. I'm still gonna walk forward. I'm still gonna face this head on, but there's still also a fear right there. And again, I think you kind of knelt it on the head with the just not having to abandon myself to show up for you, you know. So I just think it just looks like a spectrum of humanity, and it's not this one size fits all. It's not this one box. It's like, yo, I'm this, and this, and maybe even this on Tuesday, and maybe it's some shit that I align with over here, but I no longer subscribe to. Like I even talked today. I'm like, yo, I love books, eucalyptus candles, but I also love fucking Jeezy, but I also love these fucking, I don't know, get my toes painted and shit like that. But I also love little dainty necklaces and et cetera, et cetera. So I just think being able to do that and just fully show up as ourselves. And I think one last thing, and throw it to Odie. I think another thing that's kind of concerning with that is I'm not sure if y'all ever look at social media like that and like different generations, but I noticed that like all of us in our 30s, age wise,
Hmm.
I noticed that sometimes the way that we actually have picked up traits was from like real life experience. Even if it was incorrect, even if it was unhealthy, we still like shaped our lives based off of real life experience from like our elders and stuff. But I'll actually see a younger generation of like kids who might be on social media. They might not even have those actual experiences. They'll just see some shit on threads, TikTok, and this is how they decide to walk through life. And it's like, oh shit, we kind of get to a point with a digital age where it's like, bruh, this is not even experience. This is just you seen somebody ask a dumbass question online about like, oh, do men like flowers? Ask the nigga you dating. I don't I don't know Tyrone like that, you know. So I don't know. I just think that it is like it's really it's like I don't know. Ask that nigga. How would I know that? Like, and so I just want it to be just a spectrum of things of just acknowledging humanity and just all of its fullness and all of its authenticity and what it means to you specifically.
I think masculinity without patriarchy is a masculinity that is able to express harm, abuse, and neglect without it being aligned with questioning his ability to be a man. Right? So I've said in previous rooms that I feel like both men and women have conflated the ability to withstand harm, abuse, and neglect without saying anything is how it is that we construct our primary barometer for masculinity. But I believe that that barometer is developed through patriarchy because patriarchy, once again, is an aspect of the capitalist, the imperialist, push. So being able to identify, basically being able to holler when something hurt and somebody not saying, "Oh, you're not a man because you hollered," that shit's crazy to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, he ate that.
You drop the mic. That's it.
That's it.
Okay. Well, I appreciate all three of y'all for hopping on this conversation with me. I think we had made some really, really great points, and I'm curious to see what people have to say in the comments. So if you have finished watching and got to this point, put in the comments what you thought about this session. Do you have any other questions? Anything else? Any kind of input you want to put into the conversation? Let me know in the comment section. But then again, I thank you all again for being on this episode. And until next time, you all be blessed and bless up. Bye.
Yeah.
Peace.